Video86. August 7, 2012. Mythi, you know the race of aliens who were captured dead or alive in Roswell, US back in 1947. What were they? Well, I'm sure you've talked about it sometimes. In your military installations. Many types of breeds that have crashed on the planet were imprisoned and studied. In 1947, there were some accidents that were brought to these facilities. One of the ships with a team of Rigel centaurs, involving real humanoids like us, but with no survivors. Another was a ship accident with entities that you would call biotechnological, as described earlier. They were observers of another Community Galactica related, which brings together thousands of systems into dozens of galaxies on the quadrant adjacent to of our Community Galactica. There are breeds that literally transfer their quantum energy or, as you say, their spirits to units we could call special quantum clothes. They can interact with the environment, doing research in remote locations and contact unhealthy civilizations less advanced, without being physically in a biological body. These suits do not require any maintenance, and can be discarded or destroyed without anyone really getting hurt. We use these costumes for research in places where it would be impossible to survive humanoid. The presence of deadly gases, oxygen starvation, extreme temperatures, or dangerously unpredictable creatures. These costumes are easily recognizable because they do not have any kind of breathing holes, hearing, has no mouth or genitals. All units of this type that were taken by your government, were eventually abandoned by users, and stopped working after they collected the data deemed interesting during the captivity. When you interact with one of these units is directly interacting with another living being. A spirit equal to yours, more advanced, that is using a highly technological means to access that location and interact with you. The costumes are created from molecular technologies millions of years ahead. Impossible to be analyzed or understood by your scientists. Mythi, they say an alien survivor there, spoke of an old empire, which ruled Milky Way among many other galaxies, and that today still use the Earth as literally a prison for undesirable after a brainwashing. This has some foundation of truth? Look, friends, billions of years ago had several breeds, exploring solar systems for all galaxies. The main point at the time was one-sided development of races they considered themselves as better, at the expense of what they considered disposable. They literally formed great empires, sometimes enslaving entire planets to work for them. They generated fields of high energy surrounding these planets, which made the people completely submissive and without previous memories. The whole operation was focused on the superiority of military power in order to intimidate and exploit rare and necessary ores for development of new technologies. In all corners of the universe has always happened large battles for resources, in the places considered strategic. The first groups of breeds in communities were created in an attempt to defend their region from attacks and looting of ancient imperial caste, who considered themselves more important and deserving than others, were the weakest uniting to face the strongest, a resistance network of the small, and so began to appear around 180 million years ago a large number of galactic communities throughout the universe. Ours has only 11 million years, is one of the youngest. As they were created, they were forming a network of cooperation such as cells of a large beehive. And now can keep under control a lot of old imperial race that increasingly lose their status as most important than others. I never got into those details about you, but now I will go. Indeed, much of the regional colonies sent to your planet were problem in communities that had already reached the highest levels. Let's say that many problems have been sent here to settle over time in development. The large number of ethnic groups on Earth is because it has been used as troublesome colonies deposit. Very few colonies were taken away after reaching the maturity needed, the rest of the exiles sent here. Was all this time recycling in incarnations always here on planet Earth? But that was long ago. The planet will finally move to a new level and hold a new society with all those beings who were able to develop satisfactorily to compose this new population. So yes, the Earthlings of level 1 will be free to reincarnate in other colonies of the same level elsewhere in this vast universe. That will be the new era of integration of the planet in galactic context. I quote again, is the separation of the wheat and the weed. One thing you will learn over time and levels. The frequency of the planet is what prevents the activation of functions in the brain's 0 level. All who were transferred here had their previous memories blocked by the frequency. And only then would it be possible to start again, without the resentment of past failures hampering new development approach. Now is the time of planet Earth level 1. Get rid of problematic ones, which will be systematically transferred to the 2 planets that I mentioned earlier, for a new attempt to maturity. Mythi. Many friends are asking about the pictures that NASA is making available on the last mission sent to Mars this month. This is fact or farce? Friends, please, I have explained everything about what happens on Mars today. These photos taken with low quality on purpose, contrary to the technology that you already have to take perfect pictures of landscapes shows the little regard that your elites have by your intellectual capacity. These photos, videos, and everything else that is presented to you are totally fake. Mars is not what they are trying to instill in your heads. Mars today is very similar to Earth both in climate and in appearance. Hundreds of species of plants are acclimated and large irrigated plantations are being made. Seeds, without any genetic modification, are being used. Insect pollinators are also being acclimated and released on the planet. The denser ionosphere generated by the atmosphere generators is keeping the temperature of the planet and causing a nice greenhouse, especially in the equatorial zone. The creation of birds, animals, and fish compatible with the new environment are being taken and adapted. This theater can only be to justify the use of your public resources in these private projects. But are being indecently ridiculous what they are presenting to you, as if you were really all mentally retarded. It's a shame the level of misinformation that they are imposing on you. Mythi. Some are calling catastrophic events, from 17 this month. Something is really going to happen? Understand that the solar system is in total imbalance in this transition period. These oscillations of geomagnetic fields by large solar emissions causes huge distortions in the magnetic power lines that interact with other celestial bodies. A magnetic field distorted by one of these events can cause the diversion of asteroids that pass near the planet on these occasions, and can change their routes planned for totally random deviations. Starting this month, many asteroids and meteors that precede Nibiru's system, caused by shocks in the earlier passages, will pass close to the planet, but Pleiadians are monitoring. This is not the big problem right now, but the heating of the inner layers, that is increasing very rapidly. Signs of stress in the Earth's crust are indicated by the increase of volcanism and earthquakes. The so-called Pacific Ring of Fire can start a sequence of events between New Zealand and Japan at any time by following the clockwise direction to the coast of North America and South America, until the Antarctic continent. Events in Europe and Asia will follow randomly. Your scientists are monitoring the geomagnetic field and are noticing his weakened exponentially. As the solar system aligns with the center of the galaxy, your governments are following and are already preparing the sites considered safe. They are not intended to warn people for two main reasons. This population sacrifice is already part of the plans, and even if they wanted, they do not have the slightest possibility of taking the logistics of the evacuation of hundreds of millions of citizens. Pay close attention to where your elites are going these next few weeks, since the deployment plans of chaos will be performed to justify the financial bankruptcy of the economic model adopted until now. According to observers Pleiadians, the last act has begun to happen. Be alert to execute your plans to escape to safer areas when the first symptoms appeared.